talking about funding your nonprofit business. And we hope by the end of the session that you will understand what you need to do as far as a fundraising plan. I'm going to give you, if you're writing a business plan or a funding plan, I'm going to give you a lot of statistics that I hope will help you put together a successful plan. And we'll look at some places to find funding opportunities and so forth. So let's get started. Your fundraising plan is really critical because if you're going to ask donors for money, if you're going to write a grant, whatever, you have to know how much money do you need. And it's hard to come up with a number if you don't work through and find out what are the program costs. Staffing, do you need staffing? What are your operational costs? You have a database to manage your clients. You have office equipment, office space, perhaps computers, etc. But most of your funding should be focused on your program cost. What is your program? How are you reaching your customers? What is it costing you? And know all those numbers and put it in a clear plan so that you can present it to your donors and to write for the grants. So having a clear plan really helps, and your board should help you with that. They should approve it, and they should be your ambassadors to the community to help you raise funds to support it. We recommend that you have at least a half-time person working on fundraising. And that comes to, writing grants, contacting donors, managing your database, so forth. Because like for-profit businesses, if you're a nonprofit, you still need money. If you don't have money, you're not going to be successful. So it is really critical that you think about where am I going to get my funding sources. As you know, it's almost impossible for a nonprofit to get a bank loan. So all of these other recommendations are ways that you're going to have to raise money. So service fees, if you have a program, and even if you haven't been charging service fees, but you're able to, I would recommend very highly that you identify what you can charge and make sure that you use it to have a consistent revenue stream. If you have clients who can't afford to pay, you can have a sliding scale. But if there are any way to generate service fees, that's a fantastic way to get funding. So about half of total revenue for charities comes from service fees, and we'll talk a little more about that. About 25% from government contracts, and I'm talking about contracts versus grants. And charitable giving accounts for less than 25% of nonprofit income. However, most small nonprofits fall into that charitable giving group. Some fee-for-service examples, obviously, hospitals bill patients and insurance. Museums are a nonprofit. They get admission fees. A lot of theaters are nonprofit. They sell tickets. You might belong to a civic organization that's a nonprofit. They charge dues. These are all good ways to bring in a steady revenue stream. Colleges, of course, charge outrageous tuitions. And people sell things. Girl Scouts generate over $800 million a year selling Girl Scout cookies. So take that as an example. If you have something that you can sell to support your organization, That's, again, another way to generate an ongoing revenue stream. And you can see that only about 27% is the cost of goods. The rest of it goes to the organization for their programs, membership support, and all that sort of thing. So, again, that's a creative way to get funding for your nonprofit. WVIZ has an annual auction. They go out and solicit all kinds of things. And if you've ever seen their auction, it's amazing. The art, trips, all sorts of things that they sell at auction and use that money to support their programming. A lot of nonprofits will have a dinner dance of some sort. And a lot of small nonprofits start out doing 5K or 10K runs or buddy walks because they're relatively inexpensive to mount and they're not as costly as many other of the potential things that you might do. So, but any kind of fundraising effort that you do. Now, I had a client who actually knows some celebrities and was able to get uh, a concert, a benefit concert for her charity. Uh, that type of thing is great. But whatever you do, figure out how much it's going to cost before you do it. For instance, even a 5 and 10K run, if you're giving out t-shirts and they cost you $10 a piece, then if you can charge $25 or $30, you will make a decent amount of money. The issue is how many people are going to participate. So it's important to do good advertising, make sure that people are registered so you know how many t-shirts you need, so you don't get yourself in a situation where you order a lot of t-shirts and end up not having a lot of registrants. So you've spent money that you haven't recouped. So those are the kind of things you need to think about. So charitable giving, again, in 2023 was about $500 billion, which is amazing. Individuals gave 67% of that, which is close to 400. Foundations, corporations, and then behests, which people leave money in their will and so forth. So it's important to try to get funding from a combination of those things. So you might apply for some grants from some foundations. You might get money from corporations through matched giving, and individuals, of course, directly by many different ways. And where do the funds go? Well, the majority of them go to religious organizations, education, human services, some to grant-making foundations, um, and public society benefits. So in 2003, it increased. Amazing that people keep giving more money, but if you keep asking and you give them the right feedback, they will increase their giving. So when you look at your donors, and it's really important that you keep a database of your donors and that you keep going back to them, asking them for follow-up and also providing them information, whether it's through a regular newsletter, through phone calls, but identify those donors that are the highest yield donors and make sure that you pay attention to them. And by that, I mean, make sure that they know how the money's being used, how their money's being used, and how important it is that they continue to give. So you want to say, thank you for giving us money, but we're going to come back next year because we've got a bigger program and we're excited about it, and you should be too, and give us more money. So here's some interesting information about different groups, age groups. If you look at millennials, about 40% of them are actually enrolled in a continuous giving program. They are generally respond to online. They tend to give cash. Um, they're open to receiving information on their phones. So text and social media are great ways to get in touch with them. They'll relate through websites. They're not good at direct mail or phone calls. Gen X donors are pretty similar, and both of these groups are about 20 to 25% of the adult population. And Gen Xers, again, about 50% of them are enrolled in a monthly giving program. Again, they don't respond well to mail, but they do respond often to voice calls or text messages and social media. So you can use different types of advertising to get to different groups. Baby boomers respond pretty well to direct mail. They respond well to phone calls, not so much over the web, but again, they represent about a third or a quarter of the adult population, and they also give about 70 some percent also act as volunteers. So they're good at checking their email, so you can use email, voice calls, social media, not so much. So this should help you in directing how you're going to advertise to these various groups. So overall, about 57% of donors are enrolled in recurring giving programs. So that tells you how important it is to have your website available for people to sign up and refresh on a regular basis. Only 9% participate in workplace giving programs, and this is one area that you should really be aware of. So again, now's a good time to ask. I mean, there's inflation. It's probably going to get worse. The economy right now looks like the last couple of days is crashing, but hopefully it will recover. And people do have large cash reserves because they're taking their money out of the out of goodness, taking their money out of their investments. And people do like to give money when they can afford to. It makes them feel good. So again, if you know who you're aiming for, kind of what the age group and income, etc., you can target your advertising and your social media to these particular groups. And again, you have to ask. People aren't going to and aren't usually looking for places to donate their money. But if you ask, they may be very open. So you need to ask if you want them to give. So a donations page on your website is really critical, and that should be separate from all your other pages. But all your other pages should have a link, a donate now link to your donations page. And your donations page should be very clear about what people are donating for and what's the benefit that is derived by the people that are giving or for whom the money is given. So you want to describe your programs, you want to describe the impact, and you want to do it in a way that is emotionally Ew. I'm not sure I've been sharing my screen. I'm getting a weird message, but I'm going to just go right here. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not really sure what's going on today. I'm having some real issues with strange things. Anyway, so online revenue is up about 23% per year. Again, there's a significant number of repeat donors, and online giving revenue has increased 40%. So those are things you should really make sure that your website is very focused on fundraising. Um, so again, we talk about a donations page. You again, you want really strong affirmations. You want people to understand that what you're doing has such a phenomenal impact. And again, don't focus so much on what you're doing for your clients, but what your clients are experiencing as a result. One of the problems with donation pages is if you put a lot of videos and stuff directly on your website, clips, it's slow to load. You might want to put them on a YouTube and just have them linked so they come up quickly. Again, sometimes the process is too complicated. Make sure that your tabs and your fonts are large enough, they're easy to access, they come up rapidly. And sometimes it just doesn't work. So check your website regularly to make sure that everything is functioning correctly. There's nothing more frustrating to somebody than to go through all the process of entering a donation and then find out that it doesn't, when they try to submit it, it doesn't work. So check on it regularly, make sure it works. One of the things you should not do is make somebody set up an account in order to donate. You want them to donate, and then you're going to get all of the information at the back end. Once they've made their donation, then you'll want all the particulars. And they have generally no problem doing that at the back end. Just don't have them do that at the front end. So you want to make things real straightforward and easy. Again, make sure your branding is significant and consistent. So if it's on all of your social media sites, your website, your business handouts, anything that relates to your business should be consistent as far as it should have your logo, the font should be the same, the colors, everything, because you want people to begin to recognize you just based on your branding. So make sure, again, they're all the same. Make sure you have everything labeled, optimized for mobiles, and when people donate, be able to immediately generate a thank you note saying, "Thank you so much for donating. Here's how your funds will be used. We will confirm with you that they have been used in this way." So again, multiple platforms, check them all out. And if you're collecting data, of course, make sure that your website is secure. So if you are approaching a donor, and particularly if you're looking at that upper 20% of donors, make sure that your budget projections are accurate and up to date, because people want to see how much money do you need? How are you using it? Because they want mostly to make sure that it's supporting your programs. You will find that in general, though, people will not restrict the funds. And that's one of the benefits of direct donations from individual giving. Generally, it's unrestricted funds. If you go for a grant, you submit a budget that identifies where the money's being used. And if you get the grant, the money is restricted to those uses. You can't just take the money and use it however you want. So keep that in mind when you're getting grant money, that it is restricted. So, if you get money for a program, you can't use it to hire new staff. So unless that staff person is part of the program. So if you write your programs and include funding for staff in the program budget, that it would be approved for grant use. So again, always keep your case statement up to date. How is it impacted, now that we're having this huge stock market crash? You might want to think about how that's going to impact, but hopefully it'll be short term. But again, make your donor recruitment and your fundraising a very high priority, because if you want to exist and continue to exist as a business, to be able to do all of the wonderful things that you do, you have to have money. So that's how it goes. Uh, so your case statement, which is really telling people why you need money, it should be relatively short, 1 or 2 pages, but it should clearly describe what is your mission and your vision. If you're successful, what's the outcome? Then a description of your program, something about who's managing the program. If you are the sole person or you have a small staff, do you have the right credentials in the background to do what you're doing? Again, people want to give money to organizations that they feel are going to be successful. So very important to look at it from the donor perspective. If they give money, what's the result? How is that going to be an impact? So tell donors why you need the funding and what are the outcomes. And I can only stress to you, I can't stress to you enough, that it is important to have some measures of success, some key performance indicators. So where you are in your nonprofit, if you don't have ways to measure success, you know, how can I tell people that I'm being successful? It's not just how many people did we see, but I mean, take SCORE as an example. We do keep track of all of the webinars we give. We keep track of all the clients that we meet with and mentor. But what really is our success measurement? How many businesses did we help start? How many of our clients realized a revenue growth because they got mentored by SCORE? So, you know, it's not just important that we mentor all these people, it's what's the result? Did they start a business or not? So think about that when you're putting your nonprofit together. So again, you want it to be emotional. As I said, a short history of the organization. What are your programs? What difference are we making? And then the financial needs. And how can those people help you? And for instance, you actually might go to organizations that can donate materials or things to you rather than money. In that case, you want to describe how that material will help to support the program. Now, most of you, I'm sure, have heard about crowdfunding, and there are, I think, particularly the Gen X givers are good at responding to crowdfunding. And on any site, you know, you want to set a goal, and generally it's a one-time thing, a single project, like we're running a pilot of a particular thing and we need money to experiment with that and to show that it's going to be effective. You see all kinds of requests for support for people who are suffering from disasters, but it's usually a one-time thing. But again, you want to have a story that is emotional, that would connect with people. And then how are you going to use the funds? You want to add pictures, videos, that sort of thing if it helps. And then the real issue is how do you communicate it? So if you have an email database built, you have a network, you can share it on social media. The more people you can notify, the more likely you have to have people actually donate. And again, you want to thank the donors as soon as they give you whatever you're asking for. Here are some of the top crowdfunding sites. And most of them are free to use, but they will take like 2 or 3% of each donation to pay for their support. And one thing you shouldn't forget about is the legacy gift program. You know, many people are willing to leave money in their will. And some people might even be willing to set up a charitable trust where during their lifetime they get income from it, but uh, once they die, the money will go to the charity. So again, put that on your list of things and ways that we want to raise money. Again, it's critical that you track your donors, and particularly, again, because you have so many people who are willing now to do, say, monthly support, and sign up on a regular basis. So you want to have client relation management software. And again, here are some. You can do a Google search and find others, I'm sure. Um, but what you want to do, even though they're free to start with, you want to make sure that they're going to work for you in the long term. So make sure, identify what are the data elements that we want to track, and then look for a software package that will provide that data in reports that you can use. So, but there are lots to choose from. So make sure that you get one that's really going to work for you. So let's talk a little bit about grants. We actually do a webinar on grant making, but here are some types of grants that are not necessarily huge, but ones that might be enough to work for you. So we'll talk a little bit about corporate giving programs, some grant giving, and so forth. So first off, you want to think about matching gift programs. Anybody who donates, who's an employer, and make sure you put this on your grants page, your web page, that if somebody's donating, put in, do you work for a company that has a matching gift program? And that may actually just encourage them to check and find out whether they do or not. But it's really very worthwhile to get that money because many of them actually donate quite a bit. So 65% of Fortune 500 companies, we have over 18 million individuals work for companies with a matching gift program. But this is the sad thing, 4 to 10 billion goes unclaimed every year, but an estimated 2 to 3 billion is donated through a matching gift program. So that's a huge amount of money. And 84% of donors say they're more likely to donate if a match is offered. So again, something to make sure that you include in your solicitations. Here are some companies. And again, since you're going to get a copy of the slides and the recording, I'm not going to go through these, but you can see that many of these companies are well-known and they match 1-to-1. Here's up to 3-to-1. So really great opportunities. There are also grant-giving private foundations. Now, most private foundations, and you're probably aware of them, like the Susan Komen Breast Cancer Research Fund. Many people set up small foundations because they have a relative or a friend who has suffered some particular illness or catastrophe, and they set it up to support people that suffer from that same thing. So you might find that, and you will find, that when you look at private foundations, a lot of them are very specific about what they want to fund. And again, many of them are disease related. So you will need to sort through and find ones that actually fit the profile of your business. And with them, a lot of them, you need a cover letter. Some of them, they want you to send in a letter of inquiry before they will let you apply for a grant. So these are the things that you would need to include. And And for a while, and I don't know if this is still true or not, um, that many of the foundations were just focusing on companies, nonprofits that were affected by COVID because obviously many of them had to change their focus or how they were delivering services and so forth. I think most of them are back to pre-COVID processes, and that money is probably coming now more towards startups. And here again are a lot of corporate foundations. You can go to their website, and when you go to the website, for instance, it's not the Walmart.com, it's the Walmart Foundation.com or the Microsoft Foundation website that will get you to where they potentially have grants available. And again, most of them are relatively small, but if you get 2 or 3 small grants, it's probably better than getting one large grant, because if one of them discontinues funding, you're not going to be totally strapped if it's a big fund and they stop funding and you have no money at all. So think about submitting multiple grants for small amounts to many companies. And generally, when you do, if you go online and you look at those companies and what they're asking as far as grants go, you can pretty much cut and paste a lot of the information from your business plan or your case statement, plug it into the grant application. So once you've done one, they're pretty easy and you can do multiples and hopefully generate funds that will work for you. You can go to grants.gov and put in keywords. And again, I don't recommend grants.gov because federal grants are, while they're generally a lot more money, they are extremely competitive. And you will find that you have to apply multiple times in hopes to get funding. And the other thing is the grant period from when you submit a grant to when you actually get funding is at best 10 months. So if you need funding relatively soon, government grants are not the way to go. But there are some, again, that are a little bit more flexible, the National Endowment for the Arts or Humanities, and also city or state governments' websites. And I'll give you a bunch of those at the end. Okay, so here we go. The SBA website has funding, but it takes you directly to grants.gov. So if you look, this is the grant.gov site. You can learn about grants, you can search, you can apply. So there are lots of things you can do on that website. And there's a really good information on what's involved in applying for a grant. The city of Cleveland sometimes has grants. They come and go. So you might find other things, minority owned and small businesses, if you're a property owner. But when it comes to grants for the city and the county, the issue is they get money from the state, a bolus of money. They put out, a grant to support whatever. And when the money's gone, which may be anywhere from a month to a year, it goes away. So you have to consistently check out those websites to find out if there's any available. The one database that's wonderful for grants is Candid. And you can use the foundation directory um, you can see a sample grant maker profile. Like this is the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which is a huge foundation that gives a lot of grants. And you can see they funded 39 grants to 1,471 organizations, totaling over $2 billion. And you can see what type of things they are willing to fund, what states the money's going to, and how big are the grants. So that's one thing that's really nice. You can also actually sort and find grants that fit what you're trying to support. There's a Federal Department of Health, a National Science Foundation. Here's one for women. There's 125 plus grants, loans, and scholarships for women. And you can go through that and certainly find some, and there are some that are not just for women, that are also for anybody. And then here's another site for women in business. So a lot of good information on those sites. So I would suggest that one thing you might think about is finding an established nonprofit not in this area, maybe in Illinois or Indiana or New York, and ask them about how they set up their funding plan. What sort of strategy did they have? Again, if you're just starting out, it's good to find out what similar types of nonprofits have found are successful when it comes to raising money. Again, you can start fundraising even before you get the official determination letter from the IRS, because the day that you submit your IRS application is the day that you can actually start allowing donors to take a tax deduction. So it's retroactive to the date that you submitted it. So you can tell people once you've submitted your application that they will be able to take it as a tax donation. So here's I don't think we actually want to go through this, but any information about charities and nonprofits you can find here. I just want to point out, if you're a nonprofit, make sure that you're submitting your annual 990 form and anything else that the IRS requires. And then practice your grant writing skills. Again, I do not normally recommend that you have somebody else write grants for you, again, because when you're starting out, I highly recommend local and regional grants because they're much easier to get. They give you the experience. The applications are relatively simple. They don't require a huge amount of information. The things they will ask for are things like a list of your board members, your mission and vision, of course, and again, a clear budget. So that's one of the things you want to do. Candid has some grant writing classes. Again, SCORE has quite a few mentors who are willing to work with nonprofits. So all you really need to do when you sign up for a mentor, make it clear that you're a nonprofit and you want assistance with your nonprofit. So, any questions? I'll be sending you the list. You'll get a copy of the slides, and all those links are live. So if you put it in slideshow mode, you can open the links. And then you'll also get a copy of the recording. So any information I gave you that's not on the slides is going to be available. You know, when it comes to resources that can identify the ideal donor demographic, you know, what I would suggest is one of the AI tools. Go there, put in a prompt that says, I have a nonprofit that does specifically, you know, this is the mission. Can you give me a profile of the ideal donor? If you're looking at demographics, the US Census site has a lot of information on things like income levels, stuff like that. So again, I would really encourage you to take advantage of it. I don't see any other questions. Oh, Zephy is great. They cover processing fees. I'm assuming that's a crowdfunding. Okay, so it's for all sorts of fundraising. So thank you, Amanda, for bringing that up. So again, I apologize for not sure what the problem was when we started, but I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions or concerns, you can certainly contact me. I will put my email address in the chat. Oops, that should go to everyone. But, you know, again, fundraising is so important, and make sure that you put it right at the top of your list. So enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you at another webinar.